Hello everyone, how's it going? Hope you're having a great day. My name is Ben. Today I woke up to see that there is a new Stalcraft update. Yep, that's right. The great global rebalancing that we've all been hearing about is finally here, and let's check it out. I'm gonna go right into the patch notes and see what is different. So here it is, the global rebalancing of May 17th, 2023. In this article, we've tried to be as concise and informative to convey the essence of today's update, which changes the characteristics, all equipment, consumables, sharpeners, and artifacts. They are changing not at will, but as a result of the transition to the new system of balance calculation, a solid foundation that will solve the most important problems of Stalcraft. We ourselves don't like to completely overhaul established norms, but without these changes, the game simply can't move forward. Rebalance is designed to solve the problem of imbalanced artifact builds, unintuitive curve of game difficulty, toxic one-shots, domination of combat suits over the rest, and impossibility to introduce and maintain new types of equipment. Side note, technical support does not accept requests for the return of disassembled items, so we strongly recommend not to take hasty action with your equipment. Basically, they've made a lot of nerfs to some of people's favorite items, but don't worry, they've made sure to inform us that not all of these changes are permanent. There can always be another rebalance further along down the road, so definitely do not get rid or trash any equipment that you no longer like to use. You never know, it might get a huge buff somewhere down the road. It's probably unlikely, but we can always pray, right? And below we will cover all the affected equipment types, and at the end of the article there will be a link to a table with a detailed list of changes. This is really important. If you really want to see all of the details for these changes, definitely scroll to the end of this page. I'm going to go ahead and link this browser page in the description below, so feel free to click on that if you want to read this for yourself. And if you want to check out this table, I highly recommend. It's a lot of information all at once, but if there are certain items that you are interested in knowing what is changing, this is where you see the exact details. Artifact changes. The principle of artifact characteristics has been changed. Now all artifacts have 3 properties: basic, which is the strongest and upgradable; optional is now the second strongest, which is also upgradable; and then you have additional, and this appears after the potential is upgraded, and there are some exceptions, it says here. Old debuffs have been almost removed. The only thing basically left is the infection input at this point. This is important here. Input and output of artifact infections were reduced. Output of organism when affected by radiation, temperature, and bio was decreased from 1 to 0.5, and for psi impact from 3 to 1.5. Number of slots and characteristics of containers were changed. So basically what this means is, before the rebalance, if your radiation, temperature, and bioinfection value of your artifact combination, if that was below 1, you were safe from damage. They've lowered that now to 0.5. Now you need to make sure that your radiation, your temperature, your bio levels are all below 0.5, or you're going to start to take damage. Same thing goes for psi, but now it's lowered from 3 to 1.5, so those values have been halved, which is going to make it a lot more difficult to create an effective combat combination of artifacts without taking some significant bio damage or temperature damage, for instance. So again, this goes in line with them trying to shake up a lot of the more combat oriented artifact combos. Infection protection was returned to some artifacts. Radiation protection was added to the Kolobok and the Droplet. Psi emission was added to the Moonlight, and electric crystal bio was added to the Pellicle, and the acid crystal and temperature was added to Shell and the regular crystal. In opposition, they reduced the vitality of the character. Frost type artifacts now have a negative infection in the form of abnormal frost, which ignores the protection of containers. Basically what it seems like now is that if you want to use some of these artifacts to protect yourself against radiation, psi, bio, or temperature, that it's going to come at the cost of reduced vitality. So again, this is taking a big hit towards those combat-oriented builds. There are 2 new artifacts added, the Transformer and the Radiator. They're similar to the artifacts Bubble and Urchin, but with the main output of psi, impact, and temperature, respectively. Okay, so we have new artifacts. Looks like the Bubble is a psi impact thing, and the Urchin is a temperature related thing, similar to how Transformer and Radiator were related to radiation and bio. Input output of infections was changed for artifacts to make it harder to create builds for defense against dangerous zones, so the base output of the body was reduced as well. At the same time, artifacts with infection protection were returned so that they would give access to dangerous zones with damage to combat characteristics of the suit. So yeah, basically they're just making it more difficult for a player to try to come up with a combat oriented build, and you know, if they do that, they're going to be much more susceptible to the environmental effects, basically. But yeah, hopefully this does reduce the amount of reliance on the combat line and combat builds in general. Only time will tell, really. Oh, nice. There's a little image of the 2 new artifacts. That's pretty cool. Ooh, this one's pretty cool. Consumable changes. The principle of consumable characteristics has been changed. Now their number and value depend on consumable level and its purpose. Radio protectors, antidotes, thermal blocks, and psi blockers receive bonuses in protection against infections, loss vitality, and treatment effectiveness. The cost and availability of protective consumables has changed as well. I think this is pretty good because I never really relied on any of these infection protector items to restore my vitality. Honestly, I was only using it to protect against those particular infections, so this makes sense to me. All food now works similarly to domestic field ration and gives long-lasting small boosts. I think this is great because before this, it seemed like a lot of these food consumables had 0 use in the game. So now if you look here, I know it's really weird and cropped on my screen, but we're going to look at the meat preserves right there. You get 12.8% stamina boost and 8.6 carry weight increase. That's really cool. I mean, it isn't great, but it's something, right? Purest Delight will now give you 1.2% increase to vitality and a 13.6 increase to stamina. I'd be very curious to see if any of these stack. I don't think they will, but we'll see. So basically, all of these food buffs will work pretty much the same as the field ration, which I'm a big fan of. I like that change. Definitely makes it seem like food will be actually useful now. Not by a whole lot, but you know, every little bit counts in these games. Okay, now infection changes. Previously, infestations worked from one extreme to another. They either killed instantly or were helpless against the player with an infection resistance build. Infections now deal less damage, but in contrast, they give more debuffs. Also, infections became more difficult to output due to the weakening of the characteristics responsible for the output of the artifacts and the organism. Stopping power, bleeding, and poisoning have been changed. We're gonna have to go out into the overworld and see exactly how this changes the gameplay. But for now, it seems like infections are less likely to kill you right away and more just of an inconvenience with the debuffs that they give you. Okay, here's the big one. Suit changes. The old difference in vitality of combat and other suits showed its invalidity and manifested itself in the game as the absolute dominance of combat suits over all other suits, even within infections. Now within infections, taking into account the new debuffs, protective artifacts, or consumables, the combat potential of the armor is distributed as follows. So outside of infected areas, combat's going to be stronger, followed by combined armor types, followed by scientific armor. Now inside of infected areas, combat is going to be weaker than combined suits, and scientific is going to be the strongest out of 3. That's what they're saying. We'll see how that shapes up in the actual game itself. Until the rearrangement of infections in locations, expected very soon, science suits will not reveal their full potential, but they are much easier to play with than before. I did notice that pretty much all of the science suits got a pretty nice buff in terms of bullet resistance, so that's definitely going to be really helpful. In terms of the rearrangement of infection locations, I did hear that Yanov is going to be reworked. Basically, they're going to move some of the Bio 3 areas just to change where like the PvP happens and to change where those high traffic areas happen as well. But yeah, pretty much heads up, science suits are slightly better now, but until the infection locations are rearranged, we aren't really gonna see their full potential yet. Here's some common changes. The Explorer armor class has been disbanded. Suits belonging to it have been moved to other categories. So yeah, pretty much any armor that was in the Explorer line has been moved either to the combat line or to the combo line. Suit sharpening has been changed. Now it only increases bullet resistance. Now when they mean suit sharpening, they mean like +1, +2, +3, +4, +5, right? By the way, that has been increased to a +10. We can now improve weapons and armor up to +10. That's what I hear. The compatibility of containers with some suits has changed as well, so definitely gotta keep an eye out for that. What else? There's a new offer of a worn version of the Scat 9B added to the barter. That is interesting. From what I could tell on a quick look, it seems like the Scat 9B is slightly worse stat-wise than the other Scat 9, but this one is cheaper to craft. Okay, here we go. Weapon changes. Generally speaking, the boundaries of the TTK were narrowed by weakening the strong and strengthening the weak. In case anyone was unaware, the TTK is the time it takes to kill an enemy by continuous shooting at them. Sniper rifles are no longer guaranteed to kill enemies in a single shot as long as they are not wearing completely inferior armor. However, they now impose significant debuffs, which are designed to incapacitate the enemy for a certain period of time, during which it can be finished off. In other words, one-shots have been replaced by two-shots. One-shots in a game with huge head hitboxes and a high lifetime value are too toxic and negatively affect the game experience. Now, someone who didn't really get into snipers a whole lot in this game, this doesn't really have a huge effect on me. I feel like the players who were good enough with getting a kill in one shot are still going to be good enough to get a kill within those 2 shots. So we'll see how this changes the dynamic of the PvP. On a surface level, this seems to me like they're debuffing the overall damage output initially, but they're going to strengthen the maybe the bleed proc, so you take more damage via bleeding and you can't really see as well. So that's how it becomes easier to get a 2-shot kill. I'm not sure. We're going to have to see. This might be the incentive for me to finally make a good sniper rifle to test out. And some common changes to the weapons. Comfort of using sniper rifles has been improved. This means better aiming, speed and scope, and speed of movement. Perks for machine guns and pistols were removed due to their uselessness. Otherwise, their initial efficiency would have decreased. We're going to have to look at that later. The rate of fire was reduced to maintain acceptable TTK without reducing the total damage per magazine, and the damage of revolvers was increased. Yes, I did notice that overall damage was increased for the Colt Python and for the Desert Eagle, but the rate of fire was decreased for these. The characteristics of explosives have been changed. Melee weapons characteristics have been changed. What else? The RSH-12 is no longer a sniper. It's interesting. I never even got around to crafting that one, so we'll have to check that out later. Other changes, the characteristics of NPC and mutants have been corrected to maintain their level of danger to players. Oh boy. Does that mean that they pretty much buffed all the mobs in the game, the NPCs and the mutants? A comprehensive list of balance changes is listed in this table. Check out this page, click this link at the very end if you want to see for yourself the exact details and stats for every single item that's been changed. Okay, what's next? The most time-consuming and massive layer of changes has finally reached the game, and now we'll be able to respond more quickly to any bugs and fix them quickly. Also, at least 3 additional releases are expected this year as part of the rebalance. The first one will be the rearrangement of infections. This is what we mentioned earlier, after which the suits will get the final look and scientific ones will be fully playable. I honestly cannot wait to see how that shapes up, because I'm a big fan of using the science suit. I just like to explore the map and go any place that I desire. I really dislike being soft locked out of areas in the game map. Rebalance of cold weapons to lay the foundation for adding countless knives to the game. Rebalance of attachments will put the current ones in order and lay the foundation for adding new ones. I'm excited to see what happens with the rebalancing of attachments because I am a big fan of trying out and testing out all the different combinations when it comes to the weapons. I'm not exactly sure what they mean by the rebalance of cold weapons. Does that have to do with the anomalous blizzard items? I'm not exactly sure. I'm gonna have to look more into that. If anybody knows what that means, rebalance of cold weapons, please let me know. We put all the experience and knowledge accumulated over many years of Stalcraft development into the new balance foundation. For some people, these are just numbers, but actually the balance work is one of the most difficult aspects of Stalcraft development due to specifics of our gameplay. We spent over half a year building a solid system that will allow Stalcraft to avoid such overhauls for the foreseeable future. Wow, did you really manage to read the end? You got the achievement Balance Expert. Sincerely yours, Expo team. Thank you so much, Expo. That was very informative. I think this is really good news here, though. The most time-consuming massive layer of changes has finally reached the game, so now they'll be able to respond more quickly to bugs and fix them quickly. Even though this huge, big, massive change has come to the game now, don't be afraid, don't hesitate to voice your opinion, to reach out, leave some comments, leave some reviews, let them know how this is working out. Do not be afraid to share your experience. Don't be rude, don't be mean. These are all humans at the end of the day. They put a lot of time and effort into this game. Just be cool, be polite, and voice your opinion. I feel like everyone deserves the right to do that. I also haven't even mentioned that there's an entirely new game mode that they've introduced called Dead Time. It's pretty much a PvPvE game mode. It reminds me a lot of the Gambit game mode from Destiny. If you want to check it out, you just go to the menu, go to Session Battles, and there's going to be a new tab here called Dead Time. As part of a 5-person combat and research group, you need to get into the laboratory and activate energy cells to stabilize the temporal field anomaly. Survivors report that dangerous mutants, laboratory staff, hostile mercenaries, and a whole plethora of lethal traps await you inside. Uncover the lab secrets. I think it's pretty cool because, again, like I said, it is like a simultaneous PvP and a PvE thing, so that's really interesting. In this game mode, 2 teams will compete for the control of key points in an abandoned laboratory and fight off waves of mutants in the process of capturing those key points. The battle will come to a head when both teams face off against the giant robot. Join in the exploration of the temporal anomaly. So yeah, I don't have a whole lot of info about this Dead Time mode yet. I've only jumped into it once. Like I said, it seems like a lot of fun. I'll probably make a follow-up video on Dead Time once I have more information available. But if you do want to hop in for yourself, all you gotta do is hit this join the queue button. It looks like there's also a top 50 players leaderboard ranking, although I don't think that that has been updated since this just came out today. There's also a tutorial video that will play the minute you hit this tab. So if you find this game mode to be a little bit confusing, click on the tutorial and that video will roleplay. The same video is also available in their Discord and on Stalcraft YouTube channel, so you can also check it out there. The most interesting aspect of the dead time mode is that it is only available at certain times of the day. It says that the event takes place between 1100 hours to 1300 hours, then again at 1500 to 1700, and then a third and final time from 2000 to 2200. So definitely keep that in mind if you're interested in checking out the dead time mode. I'm not exactly sure why they put a time gate on this specific game mode. Maybe they just wanted to try to rebalance the peak hours and the peak times that players are always on. I'm not really sure. If you have any ideas, feel free to leave a comment below and let us all know. But yeah, like I just said, I will definitely be checking this out more later, and I will probably make a follow-up video to this as well. So another big aspect to this update is the artifact compensation. Basically, until June 17th, you have the opportunity to receive compensation for resources spent on artifact upgrades. This feature is available for all artifacts that your character has, including those in mail and containers. You basically have two options of compensation: removing personalization from the artifact in case you just want to sell the improved artifact, and resetting the potential with the return of all the energy spent if you think that this artifact is no longer worth improving. You choose the second option. You also get resources based on the average cost of the artifact upgrade, which does not involve the use of catalysts, and the maximum charge is restored once by the results of the upgrade. In total, you receive lots of anomalous batteries, proto artifacts on the basis of 1 recovery to maximum strength, no catalysts. Additionally, in both compensation variants, one or several reset essences can be issued proportionally to the average energy consumption, or upgrading the artifact to the appropriate level of potential. We'd like to offer a compensation in the form of an item that increases the level of potential to a specific level. That is not possible in the case of artifacts, because the cost of upgrading different artifacts can offer by dozens of times. Lots of artifacts in the auction were removed and returned to the owners during the maintenance work. Commission for putting the lot was refunded. But yeah, this is good to be aware of if you're wondering where your artifacts in the auction went. Bids on removed lots have also been sent back to the accounts of the players who made them. Compensation option in the context menu. An artifact can be compensated only by the player who had it in his inventory or in his mail at the time of release. If an artifact is transferred to another player, the compensation button will be hidden until the artifact is returned, and artifacts with 0 potential are not compensable. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure you guys are aware of this compensation option. I'm going to go ahead and post a link to this page in the description below, so you can feel free to read more about this yourself. Okay, so now we're going to jump into this table, and I'm just going to look at some of the weapons that I use more often and just see how things have changed. Like I said earlier, pretty much every weapon has gotten a nerf in terms of overall damage output. There were only a few weapons that I noticed that actually got any sort of increase in terms of damage. However, I did notice for all of the weapons that did get an increase in damage, most of them got a significant decrease in terms of rate of fire, or even for instance the L96A1 got a reduced headshot damage, so definitely something to keep in mind going forward. Okay, so yeah, we're just going to use the Warren VSS Vintorez as the first example. This is the rifle that I've been using mainly. Damage has gone down from 39 to 31.2. Damage on distance has gone down from 29 to 25.2. Maximum damage 170 down to 165. Beginning of damage reduction has gone up from 20 to 30. End of damage reduction has gone up 65 to 80. Slightly increased rate of fire from 590 to 60. Clip capacity is the same. The automatic fire is all the same. Spread and the hip fire spread has gone up ever so slightly by 0.07. Hip fire spread is by 0.23. Vertical recoil, horizontal recoil, movement speed, and within the scope, all of that is the same. Mutant damage is the same, headshot damage is the same. Stopping power has gone up slightly from 20 to 25, so that's kind of nice. I'm not exactly sure what this third to last stat is. The label's all in Russian, but it did go up from 1.0 to 1.3. If anybody knows what that is, please let me know. Pretty much just overall decrease in damage. You do have some slight increases in, spread and a little bit of stopping power, but other than that, just pretty much overall damage reduction. And I think this is just to make it so that most of the weapons are more balanced now. Hopefully this creates an environment where people are coming up with different builds and different weapons to use. I'm sure I'm not the only one who gets tired of getting killed by the same 3 or 4 guns over and over and over again. So hopefully we see a lot more variety and we see a lot of changes in types of gun that people go for all the time. The really big one a lot of people are talking about is the Saiga Nerf, and it seems like it took a big hit. I'm not exactly sure why, especially since the Saiga is not a PvP weapon. It's definitely structured for PvE, but let's take a look. Damage reduced from 150 down to 86. Damage on distance went up 32, 55.1. Maximum distance gone up 55 to 70. Beginning of damage reduction has gone down from 8 to 3. End of damage reduction has gone from 36 to 17. Rate of fire has gone down from 320 to 240. Clip capacity is the same. Automatic fire, all that's the same. The spread has decreased slightly. Additional hip fire spread has gone up by 0.01. Why? I don't know why. That's such a small difference. Hip fire spread has gone down by 1.5. Vertical recoil, horizontal recoil, that's all the same. Movement speed has gone up from a -2 to 0, so that's not bad. Movement speed, headshot damage, that's the same. Okay, here's the big one though. Mutant damage has gone down from a 1.5 to 1, and I don't understand why. If this rebalance is to fix PvP problems, why is a PvE weapon taking such a specific nerf in terms of what it's what it's used for primarily? I don't know why. I'm not sure. Did the stopping power increase at all, or is this the same? Because there is no number in the old slot, but it is currently at a 200 stopping power apparently. Part of me thinks that they nerfed the Saiga to incentivize more people to make the Protecta, which I originally was not sure if it was worth it to barter for the Protecta. I was perfectly happy with the Saiga. It made it possible for me to survive in the north, to survive in Yanoff and in Red Forest fighting those stronger mutants. But now that the Saiga has been nerfed, now the Protecta is looking a lot better, so I feel a lot more incentivized to continue to grind and to craft a better shotgun now. I wonder if that was the original goal of theirs. So yeah, my next game plan, I'm definitely gonna start crafting the Protecta. I have some serums saved up. I've been saving up serums, so hopefully I can get that sooner rather than later. As I did notice the Desert Eagle and the Colt Python got some damage increases. Generally speaking, if anything did get a buff or damage, it took a pretty heavy hit in terms of rate of fire or headshot damage boost. So I highly recommend you take a look at this table yourself and check what happened to your favorite guns. You can also look at armor here, and you can look at the artifacts and the food and medication. It's a really cool table, but like I said, there's a lot of information to take in here. One last thing though, I did want to take a look at some of these armor changes while we're still on this page. The SEVA suit, which is what I'm wearing right now in terms of science, bullet resistance has gone up almost double from 63 to 122. That is huge. That is amazing. Explosion protection has gone down a little bit. Melee has gone down a little bit. And it also looks like it took a pretty big hit in terms of electricity fire and chemical resistance. Carry weight has gone up a bit. Pretty nice. Radiation protection has gone up a little bit. Thermal protection gone down. Same thing with Psi, went down by 30. Bleeding protection down by 5. Oh, looks like they also made it so that the SEVA suit is now compatible with any backpacks and any containers. That is a huge change. Looks like for the most part, most of the science suits are now compatible with any backpack or any container. That is amazing. That is such a great change. I love that. As someone who is a fan of using science suits to explore more of the map, I very much welcome these changes. Again, hopefully this just makes it so that there's a lot more variety in terms of armor and builds. Hopefully see a lot more people running around in science suits. Okay, just take a look at the suit that I've been wearing, mostly the Scat 9M. Bullet resistance has gone up 130 to 182. Explosion protection has gone down a little bit. Melee protection has gone up a bit. And it looks like it took a pretty significant hit in terms of resistance to electricity, fire, and chemicals. I'm not a big fan of that. Looks like we're gaining a 0.1 to movement speed, so that's nice. We get a +8 to carry weight. There used to be a stamina debuff that is currently gone. I love that. Okay, it looks like we got an increase in terms of radiation protection, thermal protection, bioprotection, and psi protection. So that's good. Bleeding protection went down, and it looks like the backpack compatibility is pretty much the same. Okay, another one I heard good things about is the Jaeger. Seems to be pretty viable now. Bullet res, huge increase, 97 to 159. Explosion protection, slight decrease, almost the same. Melee protection has gone down. That's interesting for the Jaeger, and thought this was supposed to be the melee build. Resistance to electricity, fire, and chemicals has decreased. No longer a debuff to movement speed. Carry weight has gone up by 10. No longer a debuff to stamina. Big jump in thermal protection. So yeah, looking at the Jaeger, looking at the science suits, basically just looks like a lot of the weaker suits in terms of bullet res have gotten a pretty big buff in terms of that. However, for the melee protection, for instance, the Jaeger, this is what this suit was primarily known for. That took pretty decent debuff, which is pretty much in line with their goal of trying to balance all of the items overall. I'm interested though in the damage Centurion, because the bullet res has gone up 152 to 191. Explosion protection has gone down. Melee protection has gone up. Resistances to fire, electricity, and chemicals have gone down. Ooh, looks like it takes a bigger hit to movement speed. Now it's a -5 instead of -3. Less carry weight. Looks like a slight increase in stamina. Thermal protection has gone up, bio up slightly, high emission has gone down, and bleeding protection is down by 9. Looking at these stats initially, I was a little bit surprised because I didn't think that the bullet resistance would go up because that's what this armor is known for. However, if you take these changes in consideration with the changes to the artifacts and the container, seems like it's going to be a lot less viable for a damaged Centurion to be able to withstand some of the environmental dangers on the map. Ooh, another big one that I've heard a lot about is the MIS X Atlas science suit, which has got a huge increase to bullet resistance, 64 to 142. Explosion protection's gone up by 11. Melee protection gone up by 7, taking a big hit to resistance to electricity, fire, and chemicals though. No longer has a -2 to radiation. Bleeding's the same. Carry weight has gone up from 4 to 12. No longer a decrease in stamina. And it looks like only slight decreases in thermal, bio, and psi protection. Oh, it looks like compatible containers have been opened up from compact and standard to any container now. So MIS Atlas looks like a pretty viable option in terms of armor to wear. I'm going to start working on this one. I believe it's the suit you get from doing the Lemansk quest line. It's definitely next on my to-do list now. I also noticed that some of the earlier shotguns have gotten an increase in mutant damage. A lot of them from 1.5 to 2 or 1 to 1.5. So I feel like they did the nerfs to the Saiga and they buffed a lot of the other shotguns just to lessen some of the favoritism towards the Saiga. I think overall they're just trying to make it that you don't always see the same handful of weapons or armor combinations. They really want to increase the amount of variety that players use and, you know, to make that variety more viable. Gonna take a look at some of the consumables in personal storage. Yeah, white bread now has 2.5 stamina regen. Rye bread has 11.2 stamina regen. Tourist Delight. Awesome. So yeah, the food seems to have somewhat of a purpose now. It isn't huge, but it's something. First class thermal block is 50 thermal protection. Oh, you take a negative stat towards vitality and healing effectiveness. So some of these protectants are definitely going to help out with the environmental damage, but it's going to make it a lot more dangerous to survive overall. It's an interesting combination. I also noticed that my fridge container has an extra slot now. And of course, like I said earlier, all of the artifacts, all of the containers pretty much have been reworked. So if you had any builds that you were using or anything that you got used to, you're gonna have to come up with something completely different now because it's all pretty much been changed. The minute I logged on and I put my fridge container, I immediately started taking damage just because of all the decreases in terms of the natural resistances to psi, bio, and radiation. All right, so yeah, there are the changes that have come with the brand new global rebalance update. Definitely take some time to look at the table, check out some of your favorite items, some of your favorite armors, and see for yourself exactly how they've been changed. Overall, I feel pretty hopeful for this update. I hope that the goal that the devs have in terms of rebalancing everything is helpful. I hope the devs are able to achieve their goal of instilling more of a variety in terms of weapons and builds in this game. Hopefully players start to use a lot more variety themselves. I'm really excited to see what weapons players gravitate towards now that everything's a little bit more balanced. Just wanted to give some words of reassurance. If your favorite build or your favorite weapon got a huge nerf, just be patient. These changes aren't always going to be permanent. There might be changes further along down the road. I think an important thing to remember is to take a look at the big picture in terms of this balance. It's not necessarily looking at one gun, looking at one stat and seeing how that stat has gone up and down, but you have to take a look at all of the stats for that one gun, and not just that one gun, but all of the stats for all of the weapons in that category and all of the armor types and all of those different stats too. It's a balance, you know, it's a rebalance. It's exactly why it's called that. But yeah, if this rebalance shakes up how you play the game and you're not really sure where to go from here, just try things out. I think the rebalance is a good incentive to go out and experiment, try out new combinations, try out new builds, and see where things go from here. Now, with all that having been said, I know that this can be frustrating. I know that not everyone has all the time in the world to grind and farm for every single weapon in the game. That's where I think that the community becomes an important part in this aspect. If there are certain items in the game, any weapons or armors or artifact combination builds, please feel free to share. Check out the Reddit, check out the Discord, check out the comments. If there's any tips or tricks that I missed here, please feel free to leave a comment. If there's anything that was unclear, feel free to leave a question. And if there's any questions that you see unanswered out there online, if you know the answer, go ahead, step forward and give the answer. I feel that the Stalcraft community has a lot of really cool people, and I feel like when we come together and share our knowledge together, we can achieve great things. That's gonna wrap it up for this video here. I hope y'all enjoyed. I hope you learned something. I definitely learned a lot today. If you're enjoying the content on this channel, I really appreciate it if you subscribe, if you leave a comment or drop a like. All of that stuff helps out in the grand scheme of things. I always appreciate it, you guys. And I'll definitely catch y'all around for the next one. Take care, everyone. Much love. I'll see you next time.